Ulonkata bati yada tó yẹ kó máa da ifá. Inú tó yẹ kó jẹun, lọ́ fi bí pa. Ọbàtálá, ọba takuntakun. Ṣàngó, Èṣù, Ògún, Ọya, Ọ̀ṣun. Ìwọ ló ń bọ̀ nílé. Kí ni ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o? Ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Alafia, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha Bami, and today we have on our distinguished community elder, Oloye Baba Ifa Karade. Baba, what's going on with you, man? How you doing?
Everything is good. Dani, Alafia to everyone. Peace and blessings. It's good to be here. All right. And even though I don't see you, I know you're there. All right, so it's all good.
Ashe, that's what's
Ashe.
up. Yes, sir. Well, Baba, so since the last time we spoke, it's been quite a bit of things that's kind of, taking place. It's been a lot of development, in terms of, the content that we've been sharing and the collaborations we've been having with the shows and great feedback. I mean, the people are loving it. I love the feedback, I think, just as much as they love the information, because it really helps us, to continue to grow, and to continue to find out what the people want to hear and what they want to see, and then to deliver it, to put the ingredients into the pots, man, and start mixing these things up and seasoning them up and getting them out for us to cook, and put out for this food for thought for the good people. So with that, the last episode that we did, not Ori, but the Warriors, actually both of them making a lot of headway, and I'm grateful to see it, and I'm appreciative of it. So after we saw the feedback from the Warriors Part 1, you said that, I think we need to run that thing back and do a Warriors Part 2, and to get into what all we did hit, but kind of elaborate a little bit more on that, and then take it to the next level and bring in the elements of Ochosi and Osun. So with that, bye-bye. Warriors Part 2, I feel like we went in and went pretty good with Esu Ogun on the first one. So now we bring in Esu Ogun, Ochosi, and Osun. So what you got for the people on that note, Baba?
All right, good people. All right. Just a quick review. All right.
Sure.
Now we talked about Esu, the messenger, the deliverer. Okay. We spoke about Esu in terms of the roads, the crossroads, on our Padi, the crossroads. And we took it to, some might call it philosophical level. We might call it a real life level. Okay. When we're at crossroads, when we're faced with dilemmas, when we have major decisions to make. Do I go right? Do I go left? Do I stand still? Do I step back? Right? We're always faced with the making of a decision, and then accepting the responsibility and the accountability for the consequences of that decision that we ultimately make. And here is where Esu plays a role that we often don't elaborate on. We also spoke of Esu in terms of communication, that communicative aspect of Esu, being at the post, at the gate of the marketplace, and the world is stated to be a marketplace. Okay? So we have Esu there because there's so much communication going on. Negotiation, bartering, okay, making a way where one person brings forth goodness for many people, and many people bring forth goodness for one individual. Okay? And that's how it works on a continual basis. So she was always there. And last but not least, we went in and we spoke of Esu being that essence, that energy of our nervous system, our spinal cord, the messenger, how we treat our nerves, how the nerves impact what we feel, our sensory development and perception. If without the nerves, the senses would not work. I mean, clearly. Okay. So we have to, consider Eshu, and the care that we have for Eshu also includes how we care for our nervous system, the herbs that we take, the foods that we eat, the situations that we find ourselves involved in, overwhelmed by, and we could step back and say, is this the Eshu attribute that is assisting me to become more balanced, more authentic, more at one with the Ori of the Orisha? Okay, so let's just take that, put it in a clay dish with our Eshu, okay, and pour that on our Eshu. We can start pouring knowledge onto our Orisha, okay, so that their Oris are opened up. Okay, now we go to Ogun. Okay? We spoke of Ogun as the warrior, the Orisha creativity. We're going to take it a little step further. Okay, Ogun was the first hunter.
Mm.
Okay, and I know we think of Ochosi as the hunter, but by all accounts, by all research, okay, Ogun stated as the first hunter.
Mm.
Now, when we take the attributes of Ogun and we look at warriors, hunters, creative individuals, uh, uh, the use of metal, the blacksmith, we start to kind of sense that Orisha aren't just one thing. You understand? The god of war. No. Ogun's like, no. Just like there's fingers and thumb on a hand. Okay. I have different attributes, but when you close, you know, then it's all contained. And then you have a better understanding, okay, of what the Ogun Orisha essence and element is all about. It's not just about metal. It's not just about being a blacksmith. He's also the warrior. He's also the hunter. Okay. Now, before I kind of get into Ochosi and Osun, I want to mention how much we're missing. For example, when we speak about the power of Ogun,
Mm-hmm.
we generally don't make associations to life. Okay? Someone might be told, "Oh well, these train track spikes, this goes in your kikoko, this goes in your Ogun pot." Okay, along with the various other implements that we spoke on, the shovel, okay, the anvil and the hammer. Okay. What else? What else did we mention? We talked about the shovel. Oh, we can't leave out the machete. Okay, because that's what Ogun's known for. All right. And what we did on part one was
Mm-hmm.
talk about they're not toys in the pot.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Uh, uh, do you recall some of the connections that we made?
Absolutely, yeah. We spoke about the shovel, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you said that sometimes we got to take apart the almost like the dead skin, kind of like when we shed, you know what I'm saying, and into growth when we shed.
Mhm.
Like we want to take those dead parts and those like that extra skin, almost like when a snake sheds the skin because it's growing too big. We want to take them extra layers and attributes and kind of bury them, like the things that are no longer serving us, no longer doing anything for us on our new development in terms of our growth and evolution and expansion and all that. We can
Right.
take that shovel and bury those old layers, those old aspects or attributes about ourselves that are no longer serving us, and
Yeah.
bury them. You spoke about the rake, to be able to kind of pull up and bring about things that, you know, kind of like when the leaves fall, you know, during the fall season, you know, and gather them together. You know how we do, you know, people who lived up north, when the leaves fall off the trees, you got to go and gather and rake up all them leaves and put them in big bags and get rid of them. So, you know, the yard will still look nice and fresh. And you can actually see the green, you know, from your leaves and from, you know, from the trees, the grass, etc. I think we spoke about the hoe. We spoke about the pick. We went in. I want to say you went into pretty much almost all the tools that come in the cauldron, and we even broke down the aspects of the cauldron, you know, and the pot of what holds the Ashe of Ogun as well. So we went pretty deep in terms of, you know, what the different tools and the different types of you know, aspects of Ogun, especially when we're talking about that which we're connected to when we're talking about the warriors.
Yes, yes. And the chain.
Yes. We spoke about the chain as well. Yes, sir.
And you hit the nail right on the head.
Listen.
The double helix, I think it was that
yeah. Yep.
And
yeah, I was gonna say, because I know the story, you know, how he created the chain for the Orishas to descend down, you know, from the heavens into, you know, into the earth, into Onila. And it was like, as you were saying that, I just recall my mind was like whoosh, all over the place, and I just remember like I could see the double helix. You know, for those who are in the medical field, they know exactly what that staff with the double helix is. And, you know, and anybody who's done research in terms of genetics and genes and how, you know, DNA is identified under the magnascope. So it was real deep, man. I had some real deep downloads, and it was cool. As a matter of fact, I wish my camera was right, but I had to kind of rep with my Ogun t-shirt today. So I was like, you know what?
All right, looking good, man. Oh, we strong.
My Ogun on, but you know, I got to get my camera setups a little bit more efficient. But we're gonna get there.
All right. We caught that though. All right. So and then we looked at iron as being, again, going in, okay, as being a necessary element for life.
Yes.
Okay, it's the iron, you know, in the blood that transports the oxygen. Without the iron, we can't breathe, even if we're in the air. Okay, that iron is so necessary for our development. So when we embrace our warriors, I have my warriors and I feed my warriors and la da 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 da. Okay, what's your iron looking like? What foods contain sufficient amount of iron? Okay, and how do we now bring that into ourselves to strengthen ourselves and to, again, connect with the Ori of the Orisha? Okay. It becomes imperative that we take these steps, because other than that, okay, as interesting as it may be, again, and as ceremonial as it may be, it's obviously incomplete. Okay. And at some point, as in many other fields of endeavor, internalizing what one endeavors becomes basically a sign of maturation, a sign of maturity. You know, to internalize life. It's not doing what we're told. You know what I mean? We're doing based on being moved from the inside, because we've internalized the knowledge, we've internalized the practice, we've internalized our belief. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I kind of feel as though that's non-debatable. I mean, who can debate that?
Right.
Okay. So we have this Ogun, you know, reality shaping from within. We're strengthening ourselves. Okay. With Esu, we're working on our nerves. With Ogun, we're working on our iron. Okay. And we're seeing this in the world. Now, Jagun is the word for warrior.
I say.
Okay. I've seen that name somewhere before, though.
Yeah, I think I might know a Jagun or two myself.
So now we start to understand that being a warrior is more than being on a physical battlefield.
Right.
They're spiritual warriors. They're intellectual warriors. You take Sheikh Diop, okay? Warriors. He's not out there with a gun or a sword, but his mind is cutting through, the
misconceptions and misinformation, all that.
Preconceived notions. Okay. So, when we talk about being a warrior, it is more so a state of mind and a state of proficiency that delivers us from playing at something and doing something to actually applying and becoming better as a person, and all the persons being better create a better community, and all of the nations, okay, become better. But the building of any nation, as the African proverb states, begins in the homes of its people.
I say.
Okay. And no matter how that may be structured, if betterment is the lead, then betterment will be achieved.
I say.
So now we see our warriors as something more than, oh, I need my warriors for protection. No, you need your warriors for growth as well. So, I mean, so what's the use of being protected if you out there cutting the food?
Yeah.
What's the use of being protected if you're not taking care of your body? What are you trying to be protected from?
Right.
If but from yourself. Okay. I think most of us are old enough to take a good hard look at ourselves.
Yeah.
And then see what our involvement with Orisha is really about. Oh, I'm doing it because my ancestors did it. Well, what do you know about your ancestors? Oh, well, they're from Africa, and we had some kings and queens. Yeah. Well, okay, all right. Can we get beyond the generalization? Okay. And into the thought processes and the strength. Now, this takes me to Ijala. Now, Ijala has become, at this point, my study. Okay. Ijala, precisely, is the poetry of the warriors and the hunters. Okay. Very few of us even address it in our elays, So we'll have Ogun, okay, and we'll talk about our warriors, but we aren't making any connection to the individual warriors and the number of warriors, those who comprise the warrior hood and the hunter hood, okay. And when I had scratched the surface of it long ago. I knew the term, I knew the poetry, but I never really, jumped into it. But since, my my talks with Ochosi over the past several weeks,
Listen,
I've been no choice but to get deeper into the ori of the warriors, the Ajagun, the warriors. And one of those ways is via Ijala. Okay. What was the poetry of the hunters? Well, when we look at various other traditions and cultures, we find that They all had it. When you look at some of the Shaolin monks or the Buddhist monks, they mastered calligraphy. They became very philosophical and poetic. Okay. Be they Japanese or Chinese or Korean, they all kind of flowed like that. And, and when we step into other cultures, a little less known, we find the same thing. But where we don't seem to find it is in our own culture, spiritual, quote unquote, religious practices. Why? Because we have no knowledge, we have no history, and we have no images to reinforce that reality. You understand? So getting back into Imoye, knowledge is paramount, because we don't know what we don't know. And even worse, we begin to make concrete the misinformation and the misguidance and the preconceived notions, which are all biased against us. They are. Let's face it. Why don't we see Oyo warriors? Because you got to remember, even the word Yoruba is from the mid 1800s. Okay. And the definition of it, be right honest with you, is not very nice. Okay. But the colonizers took the term, okay, and pushed all of the tribal nations together and just said, we're going to call y'all Yoruba, based on what we heard from the Hausas, Fulanis, or whatever. Okay. But you see, we are all into Orisha, but we're not into the study, even of the terminologies. Okay. So here we go. We have the Ijala. Okay. And much like the griots, okay, the Oni Jala, okay, the owners of the Ijala, would sing praise songs to Ogun, would sing praise songs about nature, would sing praise songs, nature extended, plants and animals. They would connect life and life experiences to being on the hunt, to being at war. Okay. And again, we find that in other cultures, from Sun Tzu to what's my boy's name? Five Rings, Mushashi, Miyamoto. Okay. Okay. We look at Zen, and we see all of that out there, but we don't see it within our cultural framework. And it's not that the information is not accessible. It's just that it's all over there somewhere. Now, what I'm studying is a dissertation, okay, written in 1963 by a Nigerian, an Oyo, okay, who was studying for his PhD in the University of London. Okay. This man wrote a 600-page paper to get his PhD. I found it just searching. Okay.
Wow.
And it is something else. I figure I would take maybe like 50 pages a week or whatever to try to break down what it is he's actually doing. Now, the beauty of it is he is Oyo. So his understanding of language, like say, if I went there to study the remaining Onijalas, I would be a mess, because first of all, I'm not fluent in the language, nor the culture. I wasn't raised there. So he was raised there. So he's breaking it all down, and he's not trying to Christianize it like many had done before him. So from what I've read so far, his last name is Bola Bola Bola. Let me get it right because I don't want to get it wrong. And I had it, and I just yeah, here we go. Yeah, Babalola Solomon Adeboye Babalola. So I want to give him credit. Now again, this was back in 1963. All right, 600 pages. But he talks a lot about the Ijala and the poetry of it, the metaphors, the similes, and me as a writer, I'm like, fine. And then when I make that connection to how I've been writing and what I've been reading, okay, it's like, oh, we need to pay some attention to this.
Facts.
So my next book, The Comprehensive Works of Ijala, a breakdown. Oh, it's coming.
Yes,
Because
sir.
I make sense of things, I take note, I try to figure it out. I reach out to people, as a result of the little baby steps that I'm taking. And then I try to make it, comprehensible and understanding to us, just like I did with the handbook of Yoruba religious concepts. Got to boil it down so that we can understand it and then grow. We grow from it from where we are.
Yes.
Okay. I shared with Baba Orisha Bami Tupac's book.
Look, you beat me to it. Listen, I was heading there. Look, yeah.
Don't even try it, young blood. You can't keep up with the old school.
Listen,
but go ahead with it, man. Go ahead with it.
I've been telling people too, boy. I said, boy, Baba got me feeling like I ain't doing enough out here. I got to go harder, boy, because this ain't enough. Listen,
I got to tell you.
I'm gonna tell you what's even more dope about this is I'm so glad that it came to me now while we're actually in the middle of the episode too. But I'm not sure if I shared with you about the fact that I did not interview, but I did a podcast about his mother, Afeni Shakur, because I watched the Dear Mama documentary of his, right? Like I think it's like a 7-part series. Phenomenal documentary. I love it because I learned a lot about Pac that I didn't know. And mind you, he's somebody who I've literally studied from the time, he hit the scene. Once he started in Juice, I knew he was somebody that was special, as long as the rest of the world. But he was multi-dimensional, in terms of, with his acting, with his music, with his writing, with his poetry, with his spoken word, with his activism. But one of the things that I did not know, but I wasn't surprised, is that his mother, Afeni Shakur, was actually a devotee and a practitioner of Ifa. So in that documentary, toward the very end of the documentary, I saw her. She had a white dress on, and she had on Rumila Ileke, and then she also had on an Esu Ileke in the documentary. So I took a picture of it. I paused the documentary, took a picture of it, and I made a video about it, because I was like, yo, I didn't know, Afeni Shakur was into the into the tradition. And what's even more profound is that, as time goes on, the more you learn, and the more you know. So even we go back, for those who are fans of the movie Scarface. If you watch the movie Scarface, in the very beginning, when they first got to America as refugees and they were playing ball under the freeway, a couple of the characters in Scarface had on Ilekes in the doggone Scarface movie. I'm like, they was back on, what I'm saying? Like, they was into Ifa, probably was Santeria, but whatever. I still recognize the Ileke. So like, and so, you wouldn't know that if you didn't know the tradition and the culture. So even going back and watching old films, I see where, Ifa, Isheshe was in the culture. But I was really taken for a loop, and it was a very, very profound, honorable surprise to see Queen Mother, Afeni Shakur rocking her Lekes. I thought that was dope. But I wasn't surprised, because someone with that kind of strength and power and wisdom, and her being a mother, the IJ, who she is, like, and she gave the world one of the most profound artists to ever walk this planet, So I'm not surprised that she had found her way home to Ifa. You know, but it was just cool to see it though, and it really, it
Right.
definitely resonated deep within me for sure.
Well, see, and that's the importance of reinforcement. You see, and that's what we're missing. The reinforcement. We hear every other religion singing their songs. We hear every other religion, you know, speaking their truth. The mass media that we're subjected to, let's face it, okay, basically puts us nowhere or just a little bit of somewhere. Okay? So we don't hear the mass message. I was just speaking with Kabir say the Hunso down in Georgia, and I shared with him when I was doing the talk show, the book talk with Ianifa Tashir. When I was reading the captions, it was like every time I said Ashe, it said Amen, and every time, you know, something was, you know, it's subtle, but it's crazy. Now he was talking about, they said something in Yoruba about Esu being your protector or something like that, and then the caption said something very demonic about Esu. So you see, these kind of things we have to, you know, pay close attention on that side, okay, of being underrepresented, and then
misrepresented or misinterpreted intentionally too.
Intentionally.
Oh yeah.
Now, I digress. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the Warriors, and who can deny that Tupac was a warrior? I mean, who can deny it? Even Nikki Giovanni was stating that, okay, this whole gangster rap thing is a product of someone else capitalizing off of demonizing the power of our spoken word. Okay, the power of our speaking being.
Yep.
And then I'm getting to the story about Tupac, and she got, okay, the world, you know, it's well, even the heavens, as far as some folks would say, it was wars in the heavens. So I don't know. It's just the nature of things, I guess. But anyway, Tupac, okay, kind of represents that Onijala. Okay,
he did.
Truth from that warrior perspective, and how it moves through him. Okay, how it moves through him. He wrote a piece in the depths of solitude. I exist in the depths of solitude, pondering my true goal, trying to find peace of mind and still preserve my soul, constantly yearning to be accepted and from all receive respect, never compromising, but sometimes risky. And that is my only regret. A young heart with an old soul. How can there be peace? How can I be in the depths of solitude when there are two inside of me? This duo within me causes the perfect opportunity to learn and live twice as fast as those who accept simplicity. And that's powerful. Please wake me when I'm free. I cannot bear captivity, where my culture, I'm told, holds no significance. I'll wither and die in ignorance, but my inner eye can see a race who reigned as kings in another place. The green of trees were rich and full, and every man spoke of beautiful men and women together as equals. War was gone because all was peaceful. But now, like a nightmare, I wake to see that I live like a prisoner of poverty. Please wake me when I'm free. I cannot bear captivity, for I would rather be stricken blind than to live without expression of mind. I mean, come on now.
Listen, Pop was different, man. Like he, you know, and that's the reason why I took to him the way I did, because he was powerful, you know, and even to like my own personal, you know, literary work, like my first children's book, Star Seeds, I named the characters after Malcolm and Tupac. The name of the characters in that book were Malik and Amaru because they personify what I feel like is true Black excellence, especially in the space and time of warriorhood. Like there, I personally, and no disrespect to any of the other freedom fighters and all the activists and all the greats that we've had before us and even during us now, but it was something about both of them that it really it sparked something within me. And even to the point where I remember Pac had a piece, and it's probably in that book, and I haven't got the book yet. Hopefully mine will be here tomorrow. But I remember one of his pieces, and it might have even been The Rose That Grew from Concrete, but I remember him saying, I can't say that I'm going to change the world, but I can say that I wish to be the spark to the person who will change the world. Something to that effect. And it's just like, he just was on a whole nother level. Mind you, we got to, if we really think about who and what this brother was, Pac was assassinated at 25.
See,
I don't know how many people have done a fraction of the work that this young king did at 25. I don't. I mean, so it's like he was different. Like he was very different, even to the point where he laid out prophetically his transition. Last actual studio video that I know of was I Ain't Mad at You, where he was coming from Orun, from the land of the ancestors. He was there with Red Fox. He was there with, you know what I mean, the greats. So it's just like, yo, this dude, when he says it's two inside of me, I have to believe that.
See,
I have to believe. His last album was Machiavelli. The 7-day Illuminati, 7-day theory. Machiavelli, of course, everyone knows the man who was world renowned for faking his own death. So he had us looking around for decades like, yo, he ain't dead. And it was in ICU for 7 days after he got shot that last time. Who does that?
Right. But see, this is the importance of Isheshe, making those type of connections and honoring those who are the word. They're not of the Ofoashe. They are the Ofoashe. And the Oni, the owners of Ijala, they're on that level. They're on that
frequency.
That frequency. So Tupac would be a warrior, would be Ogun, would be someone who would grow to be an Orisha. Because again, in all accounts, Ogun actually lived. Ogun was an actual person. We're not talking about gods and all that kind of thing. We're talking about people who have, built themselves up and made enough of
contribution, impact.
Challenge, impact. That's what I'm looking for. An impact to, and remember, people didn't have computers and cell phones. So word travels, and word travels fast. But here we have someone like Ogun, who becomes, the Oni of Ijala, who started the first chant, who brought about the first kind of essence of, poetic expression for warriors and hunters. That's some powerful stuff. Now that we've somewhat established that, let's move to Ochosi.
Bye-bye. Real quick before we go to Ochosi, because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to share this with the people. So, and for those who don't know, and I'm sure there may be quite a few, but Ogun was literally, I want to say, either the third or the fourth Oni of Ile Ife. He sat on the throne of Ile Ife, and if you don't know how or where to find that information, you can go back on the channel and look at the podcast that we did from the Oni's Palace in Ile Ife earlier this year. I can't remember the number of the episode, but in that episode, once you go through the introduction, of us coming into the palace, we got a tour, and the tour guide of the Oni's palace actually showed the picture of Ogun on the wall. It was Oduduwa, and there was two more that I can't recall. And Ogun was one of the first 4 Onis to sit on the throne of Ile Ife. And they have it documented in the Oni's palace right now in Ile Ife. So this is real. This isn't make-believe. This isn't fiction. It's not Disney. This is real deal Holyfield. Like, this God really walked this planet. And he really sat on the throne of Ile Ife. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's how powerful our story is. Not his story, our story.
Right. And by all accounts, he was said to be one of the sons of Oduduwa. That from the accounts that I was reading up to yesterday. All right. That, but see, this also brings something into mind that, and well, in Ijiak Bey, or Rumula states that all the Orisha were actual human beings. Okay. All the Orisha were actual human beings. And I know people say, oh, no, and you worshiping the dead and you worshiping this and you worshiping that. Well, okay, well, now let's look at every other religion that you got.
That part.
Okay. So why is it okay for you to do it, but it's not okay for us to do it? Oh, okay. You're prejudiced, you're biased. Okay. You're arrogant. Okay. All the negative connotations of, you not being open to the world and then wanting to control the world and everybody in it. Okay. But there's nothing different in the being of humanity. There's nothing new about this. And just like for people who study Buddhism, you have the Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattvas were people who had become, so immersed into Buddhism and so followed the way that they were starting to become enlightened, and they were having, an effect, an impact on the people. They were Bodhisattvas. And I'm like, well, Orunmila is saying that everyone should strive to become an Orisha. Everyone should strive to empower their Ori to the point where they have a positive impact on the world and help to bring about Ipore, the betterment of the world. But see, we've been tricked into really, thinking that it's all out there and up there somewhere. When our own Odu, our own sacred scripture, if you will, is telling us that no, it's all in here. It's all in your development. It's all in what you do on this earth. And you can believe all these other stories if you want, but why not, take a look at
our story.
We all into our ancestors and all into the Orisha. Well, why aren't we into their reality? Okay. So we can step beyond the confusion, and show the world what we're made of and throw out what they're making us of. Okay. So powerful. I mean, it's powerful.
We're going beyond the veil.
Going beyond the veil, stepping outside of the frame. Okay. And being iconoclastic. Now, Ochosi. Okay. I'm not even going to get into what Ochosi been taking me through. All right. Because it's all good. Now I'll be here till tomorrow morning.
Look, we'll do a whole nother show just on Ochosi. That's what we could do.
But now we look at Ochosi and we look at that little bow and arrow that you have inside of your kikoko, that you have inside of your Ogun pot. And dare I say that, our knowledge of Ochosi is limited to, he's the hunter. Okay. Okay. Well, so what are the attributes? Okay. Oh, well, he's the hunter. No, Ochosi institutions, okay, from hospitals to police stations, to schools, wherever there's an institution, that's under Ochosi's auspices. I'm not saying so. Okay. I'm delving into the word of the elders. okay, so that I can improve my elderhood. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it's like, I get it. Ochosi is institutions, and it's Ochosi is not just about the hunt, okay? But Ochosi can take on, mimic, and camouflage himself to the point where he's unseen. He's the supreme hunter. Okay. Now, Ochosi, with that bow and arrow, that little bow and arrow that you have in there, and I know it well. I used to bestow warriors on folks left and right, and we even had the little bow and arrow, and I put a hook on it, and people would wear it around, like people wear their crosses or whatever. But my folks were wearing their Ochosis.
I got one. I got no Ochosi chain. Yeah, my godmother, she makes them. So I had bought. I jumped on it as soon as I seen. I grabbed me one.
So we know what we're talking about. So now we have Ochosi. Now, what does that bow and arrow represent? Well, okay, well, we can take it to the hunt. We can take it to the war. But we can also take it to timing. Okay. We can also take it to whatever goal or target that I have in life. I need to aim for it. I need to take, as you and I discussed, about the win and different changes and challenges and distractions. So I need to be focused. I need to be concentrated. I need to be in good position so that when I let me go to deal with this and to accomplish my goal, my timing, my focus, my technique, I'm going to hit the bullseye. All right. It's going to happen. Now, when we pull all that together, since we going in, okay, we start talking about strategy of strategizing. You can't just go on a hunt like you going for a walk in the park. You're going to get eaten up, man. It's going to be over. Okay. Right. The hunter becomes the hunted. Okay. You got to make sure your arrows are sharp. You got to make sure you have the right food to eat. You got to make sure you know how to get back. Carrying the game that could be, looked at by other animal hunters. Oh, you carrying this antelope on your back? Oh, I'm going to get you and that antelope. All right. You have to have a strategy. And oftentimes, unfortunately, this is where we kind of fall a little short. Okay? We want things, but we don't have a strategy. Okay? And we find ourselves going in circles. Okay? And we find ourselves not achieving the goal.
Bye-bye. Yes. And real quick, too, I'm going to share this with the listeners. For those, and I don't know if you've seen this movie. I hope you have, but if you haven't, I guarantee it's going to be a phenomenal watch. But there's a movie that I fell in love with. It came out, I can't remember the year. I would say, I don't know, maybe the 2010s era. But anyway, the movie is called The Immortals. And that movie was actually made about Ochosi. They don't speak that, just like they don't in a lot of our, history, a lot of our stories. But it's about the bow. It's a powerful bow. It's like the most powerful weapon in the movie, and based off of a warrior, or I should say a child who was born kind of like like a bastard child, right? But he didn't know his father was actually a god. So it's dope the way they weaved it. But it's a phenomenal movie though. But when I remember watching that movie, this is before my Orisha journey too. But I just knew there was a much deeper metaphysical, you know what I mean, like meaning or symbolism with this movie, because it resonated so deeply within me. And now, in hindsight, fast forward to 2024, that movie was about Ochosi. So I definitely recommend to the listeners, check out the movie The Immortals, and then that will bring everything that we're talking about to a whole nother level.
And the beauty of what you're sharing is that we see things through the eyes of what we've seen.
Yep.
We make connotations and we make connections based on what we've experienced, what we've come to know. And as a writer, Okay, it becomes very important to determine what messages you're signaling to the people. You know what I mean? What's your call? What are you doing? Now, this whole thing about, bow and arrows and archery and archers, it's global. It's global. The problem comes when we, specifically of Isheshe and Ifa, when we don't see it. Okay, like Baba Orisha Bemi sees it. It's like, I can see Ochosi in this. Someone else from another culture might see somebody else in it. Somebody from another culture might see somebody else in it. And that's cool. But when we don't see ourselves in it, that's not cool. You know? So we reinforce it within ourselves. And we take it to that next level, like our ancestors did with Ochosi. It's like, this guy is phenomenal. You know what I mean? We're gonna take it to the next level, and then they become, demigods and all that kind of thing. But these terms need to be examined from where I'm sitting as basically states of mind and states of influence and states of Baba Rishabemi, like you stated, states of impact. Okay. So, yes. Okay. Now, this is what really kind of put a little spin on Ochosi. From the accounts that I've studied, and I'm really trying to understand this. Ochosi is the guard of Obatala's edifice, Obatala's home. And it's difficult to get through to Obatala if you can't get through Ochosi. And I pondered this, man. I pondered this. And even Ochosi is known as Ashofun, okay? Because when he's guarding, he has the white cloth on, which is why I have the white cloth in the background, quiet as it's kept. All right, because I'm still, Ochosi had me in whites for like 7-8 days, man. It was driving me insane. Okay, but the whole thing is that to increase our connection, for lack of a better word, to increase our understanding, by gaining knowledge, and bringing that into wisdom, Agbon, then it's like, all right, well, if this connection between Ochosi and Obatala is as real as they say, then that little Ochosi in that Ogun pot is more than a little bow and arrow. It's a way to the Orisha of Orisha. You know what I mean? Obatala, Baba Ming. So we got to give that little bow and arrow a little bit more homage. Okay. So now we're starting to see Ochosi in a different light. Okay. And when I go in on this, okay, I think about the bow and arrow stance that one might practice, like you did. That's a meditation pose. Okay. The bow and arrow stance, which is part of a martial arts stance. Okay. And we start to see the bow and arrow differently than the physical archer. Okay. We take it into our practice, our standing meditational practices, working on our stances, that bow and arrow stance. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It's not like this is hidden. It's just that our minds are veiled. Okay. And we're walking around in darkness, feeling that we're in the light. But that's part of the trickery. We need to make you feel good.
Right.
Here, and have a candy bar. It'll make you feel better. Yeah, what about the tooth decay and the sugar and all that kind of stuff? Oh, don't
Right.
worry about that. Don't worry about that.
Everything will be all right.
Yeah, you'll be all right. And if something go wrong, go to the doctor. You know what I mean? They're just all set up and they'll give you some medicine and then you'll get diabetes and come on now, eat some more of it. All right.
Right.
Come on now, believe this, believe this, believe this. Okay. Don't worry about that other stuff. Okay. Because see, all they talking over there, that's that voodoo stuff, that witchcraft stuff. Ain't nothing to that. But what we got over here is good. We're gonna take care of you. We have to, we have to come to grips with, like the playing field, okay? Has to be balanced. And then we can start to determine where we're going to go with these shay. Okay? Because see, you can't have one religion telling you it's holy scripture and then have your own shay stories. We're being allegorical here. We're using symbolism. We're taking the lessons of the great ones and pulling it into our lives so that we can become maybe just a little bit better, so that we can aspire to greatness. And this is what the warriors are for. The aspiring to greatness. Not just, I got to have my warriors because I need protection. I got to feed my warriors. Okay, again, what are you feeding them? Okay. Now, Osun, the little rooster. Okay. A lot of people don't even know what it's about. They just, I got the rooster with my warriors. Okay. Well, there's a number of ways to look at that little rooster, that little silver rooster with the bells on it. Okay. Back in the day, I would prepare deal soon because if you unscrew it, okay, I hope I'm not giving away any Eli's big secrets or whatever. Start getting hate mail and threats again.
Oh man.
But there should be herbs in there. Anyway, there should be herbs in there. Maybe some efun or whatever. But the empowerment of that Osun comes through the herbs. The herbs come through the earth. Okay. The representation of the Osun is what the Babalawos hold, as a staff and opa. Okay. And this is the kind of say that even the warriors are guided by the source.
Mm.
The source is Ifa. The source is Ifa. Okay. So the source of our being, this is the source of all beings, and the openness of that iron pot. Because remember, all the other ones are covered. Oshun is covered, Oya is covered, Ovatala is covered. Everything is covered in the clay pot or wood, you name it, but it has a cover. Your warriors don't have covers. Okay. They're open. Now, some people equate that to the term Ode, but Ode means hunter.
Mm.
Okay. And then there's another pronunciation of it, Ode, okay, which means outside. Okay. And sometimes, we're trying, and we put the two together, but the mere fact that Ogun cauldron is open and everything is exposed to the openness as opposed to having a lid on it says something about the warriors are out in the open. Okay. The hunters are out in the open. And they're perceiving space a little differently than people who are closed in the village or town or city. And that's why it's important for those of us who have our ajagun to get out into the openness
Yes. Yes. We was just talking about that.
Yes.
Literally.
What do you
I was
think?
saying that within myself that I have to be more proactive with, being in bonding and connecting with nature because it is real and it's powerful, and even as you're speaking,
Mm-hmm.
like what kind of like resonated within me or downloaded within me is that, yeah, there's no top, there's no cover,
Mm-hmm.
but what that equated to me is because there's no lid, there's nothing to contain
Yes.
the reach, the bandwidth,
Right.
the striking distance.
It feels
I
all
mean,
right. I hear you. Right.
because we talking about supernatural beings and energies and entities when we're talking about these deities and these warriors. So there's no containment
Right.
of a power.
There's none. How you gonna put a lid on SU? I mean, come on now. Come on. Let's start with that. How you
Yeah.
gonna put a lid on SU? It's like you better get out of here with that lid. That doesn't contain me. Man, let's talk about space now.
Yeah.
Now, here we are, okay, in these bodies, the embodiment of.
Mm-hmm.
And this I find that it's something that we just miss. And I literally fell upon this epiphany. It was like, all right, so we have our bodies. We're in this material. Like you're talking about the snake early, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We don't really shed it, like some other animals and everything. So we're kind of stuck in here until we are not in here no more.
Temporary temple.
Yeah, that's all. Okay, just a walk in the park. All right. Now we say, how much of the flesh, the skin and bone do we have, external and internal? Okay, 6 to 10% maybe. How much water is in the body? Okay, some people say the body's like 70% ish kind of water.
Mm-hmm.
How much space is in the body? Some people say up to 90%. You look it up right now. How much space is inside a human body? Now, this is where it gets deep. If that ain't deep enough, we have more space inside of us than anything else. Okay, and we're gonna get the numbers in a minute because Jagun is on the case. We got the warrior thing happening up in here because
Listen,
we hunt knowledge. We track.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm on it. Listen,
Yeah,
I got something else to share too. But according to what I found out, we'll dare to see about the actual validity of this. But I found a couple of different articles, man, and from what I'm seeing, like just off the initial little Google search, I'm seeing 99% of the human body is empty space due to the vast majority of space within the atoms that make up our bodies being empty space between the nucleus and electrons, meaning that while we appear to be solid, most of the volume is actually empty space at the atomic level. That's powerful.
That's
because when
powerful.
we talk about atoms, atoms, I don't know if people know the paraphrasing of the biblical creation story of Adam and Eve, but that comes from a wordplay phonetically on atom, A-T-O-M. If we go to the Kemetic sciences and spaces, we're talking about atom, and this really can go deep. So I'm not even going to go into all that. But I will say that that's powerful. That's something that I've never thought to look up. And mind you, I'm a self-professed nerd. I am a nerd to the fullest degree.
All right.
That's
All
deep.
Right. So here we go. Now, when we look at Isheshe and all of our ancestors that we jumping all up and down talking about, we honoring and all that, we're not getting into their thought processes. And like you say, we can draw quickly on the biblical. Okay, we can draw a little less quickly on the Kemetan because what we've been indoctrinated, what has become knowing to us.
Mm-hmm.
When we start looking at the various civilizations that have risen and fallen in the West African lands, we cannot dismiss that they/we had similar understandings.
Mm.
It's been shut off from us for obvious reasons. Oh, your ancestors were slaves. Oh, you guys weren't doing nothing. We go back to the Tarzanian things. Y'all just ran around. Well, there was a couple of us who just ran around. Just like there's a couple of Europeans just running around, and just like there's a couple of Asian folks just running around. But we did have civilizations, and we had deep thinkers, and we had scientific analysis of life. We've been reduced, but that day is done. Then the warrior.
Yes, sir, because as a hunter.
Like, all right, all of you, Babalaos and Iya Nephis and everybody, oh, y'all have Ifa, but do you? Do you? Okay. Because, how deep we gonna go with? Or you just gonna do readings and ebos?
Right.
Okay. Is that all you got?
Mm.
And a total dismissal of the profound sciences, of the deepness of the very people you say you're giving homage to.
Mm.
I'm not saying this because I say so, like, oh, God told me to tell you. No, this is
Right.
okay. Are we going to talk about our ancestors? Then let me find out. Okay. Because if I'm Ochosi bound and Osun is that source of space, then the space in me is guiding me.
Yeah.
The space in me is helping me to understand who I am based on who I am, not on what other people, especially those who have oppressed me,
Right. How they try
attempting
to.
to make me. What kind of warrior submits to that? I mean, honestly, what kind of warrior submits to that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If we're gonna be warriors, then daggone it.
Let's be warriors.
Let's be warriors.
Sure.
Ajagun. Ajagun.
My name is Anitolu Shitu. I'm Jagmuru of Owule Kingdom. Also, Otuba Bobakeye of Oruo land. Balógun Ṣàngó tó tún wá jẹ́ àkọ́kọ́ olóyè tí ó ń gba oyè nílẹ̀ Jagun Ṣàngó ó pọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀.
Jagun Jagun. I say, and that's, Ajagun Part 2. Just a little something. Just a little
something.
Man, listen.
Jagun Jagun.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha Bemi. Shout out to Baba Karaday. We definitely appreciate all the love and support. And also, please check out Baba Karaday's new website, The Temple of the Mystic Path. I have the website in the description. Baba has about 6 of his books on his new website. Elder Reflections 1, Elder Reflections 2, War and Resurrection, A Place of Nights, War and Resurrection, and I believe Souls of Myrrh. And also, I think there's one more, but they're all on the site. Baba has them there for you ready to go. So if you click the link, templesofthemysticpath.com, you'll be able to download your copy of all 6 books. And yeah, as always, we definitely appreciate the love and support, family. And I hope you all enjoyed The Warriors Part 2. Once again, I'm your host, Orisha Bemi. Please like, share, and subscribe. This has been another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I'll see you all on the next episode. We out, family. Peace. Ó dàbọ̀.
ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàpọ̀ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo sí ẹni gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ forsake not your ancestors and pray.